I think the thing that really changed it was when you had one of your bright ideas.
Hey, this is Hollis, and welcome to the messy truth of transformation, where it's okay to be magical and messy. This isn't your typical personal growth podcast. Around here, we talk about the real stuff, the raw, the honest, the shadow work, the spirals, the breakthroughs, and the beautiful chaos of becoming who you were always meant to be. If you've ever felt alone on your healing and growth journey, or you wondered why it feels hard even when you're doing the work, you're not crazy, and you're definitely not alone. Let's dive into the messy truth of what it actually takes to transform your life.
You know, that was 2012 when that happened. I don't think I think it was 2016 when I went to Dr. Joe, and that moment of coming out of a meditation and where he spoke to me and it was gone. All of it, just gone. It was like this backpack that I carried around with hundreds of pounds of weight.
Wow.
And it was just gone. And I was alive. I could breathe. I was fucking alive again. And this is after, tears and tears and tears, just bawling and meditations in a room of 500 people, just bawling my eyes out, and going places.
Was the bawling about Brad? Was it just everything you'd been through in life?
Maybe this life, maybe other lives, everything, just emotion, just raw emotion. And there was a lot of it. There was not a bottle, there was bottles, and cap after cap would keep coming off, and I would just, here comes another one, and I think we all have that. And I think it is this, this whole awakening thing that, people keep talking about. I don't follow the masses. I'm a rebel. I have my own thing. And this awakening to me is just a cleansing of the human soul. For me, and we joke about this, it's these two stone teenagers that live in the sky that say, hey, I got an idea. Let's put Scott in a hospital bed. Let's see how he reacts. I like this. But what should we do? Let's tell him it's MS, like something he can't come back from. Let's see how he handles that. What happens if he handles it good? Well, I don't know. We'll give him a bone. We'll make it go away. Oh my God, I like this a lot. It's kind of like the underdog story, the guy coming back, right? I like this. This is really good. And then they got a kick out of it, and they said, I got another idea. Let's have Scott and Brad walk down a beach. It's the great show.
Yeah.
And you're not just the one that is living the show, the actual character, Scott. You're also the two stone teenagers in the sky pushing the buttons.
The orchestrator.
The orchestrator, the observer, the great joker in the sky. And then when, just like Brad, when that moment comes for me, they'll be there and like, wow, you did so good, dude. I mean, we tried everything. Remember when you were watching the Sixers game and you were shitting yourself in the bed? Remember that? Remember? I mean, dude, you handled that really well. Remember the night that you peed on your face because you couldn't move? Remember that? That was special. Special. We never had that before. How long was I down there? Oh, only an hour. Only an hour.
Well, this isn't the end, folks, because there's more. Believe it or not, this man has lived a few movies in one movie. So you get out of the hospital, you move on with life. You're like, oh my gosh, that was, you get through it. 12 years later, 11 years later, you're walking down the beach, you go into the water, you watch your best friend drown. And once again, you're sort of not debilitated in your body anymore. I'm assuming debilitated in your mind from all the messy emotions that come with that.
Yeah.
And you go to 4 years later, Dr. Joe Dispenza meditation retreat. You have a moment there that brings forgiveness and peace and lifts the weight up. And you go, okay, like, life, as I always say, can never go back to the same after transcendental experiences like that.
No,
they fundamentally
never.
shift you. And, we've talked a lot about this, the hardest part about those experiences and any big moment. So even the experience with Brad, I can only I can't imagine that I can't imagine that for somebody that was actually there and saw it, because it's a whole lot different when you're watching it. And so any moment, being in the hospital or losing a child, like any moment that it changes you fundamentally, and you
Mm-hmm.
can't go back to the person that you were before. And so that moment that you have in the meditation, you can't go back to life the same.
Mm-mm.
And as I know, life changed for you after that meditation drastically. And so if you want to just kind of fast forward us through the next, I don't know, 4 years after that
Mm.
moment. And, really what I'm getting to is the next big death. Really,
Mm.
you could call it in your life. And I call it
Mm.
your ego death of selling your company. Your I always tell people your first child, your first love, your
Mm.
first
Mm.
so once again in your life experiencing another sort of, you could say, tragedy or death. So give us a recap in the 4 years building up to that moment.
Well, yeah, anybody that has had a transformational moment, whether it be, through, uh, psilocybin or ketamine or, ayahuasca or 5-MeO or anything that people reach for to knock the skipping record, because it really is that. It's a skipping record. That voice in our minds, it's that judgment of ourselves. And when I came back from the first time, it was the most impactful time. It was just a 1 day event, and I would listen to Dr. Joe because I saw him on What the Bleep, and I thought, hey, this guy was paralyzed. I was paralyzed. We're like brothers. He knows what it's like. And going to him and listening to him for so long, and finally going to an event where he was, and he didn't, maybe 400 people in the room. And I'll never forget it. I swear to you, he said this. He goes, "This is going to mess you up, or it's gonna leave a mark. It's something in that. We're going to do this breath work." And I did it, and I awoke something in my body, in my soul, in that was not, it could not be contained in my body. It was bigger than anything I have felt. And it was a lion. It's the only way I can describe it. And, I'm holding onto my chair and I'm doing this breath, and I can feel this thing like it's waking up and it's starting to move. And this thing is a lot bigger and it's inside me and it's bigger than my body. So it's looking for a way out. And I could literally feel, I was terrified that my arms were going to come out of their sockets. My legs were going to come out of their sockets. And I am holding onto my chair for dear life. I have my legs spread and I got my legs my hands in between my leg, clutching the chair, because I was afraid I was just going to rock it right out of the damn building. I swear to you. And then all of a sudden, it just built so much and it went up and it shot right out of my head. And it was me that shot out of me. And I remember I'm like in the ceiling of this ballroom, 25 feet high, maybe 30. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm free. All I thought, oh my God, I'm free. And it's the feeling without body, the feeling of euphoric feeling, the most incredible, incredible feeling. But it was my feeling. It wasn't like I was visiting with somebody, it was me. I was the lion, and I shot back, and came back. This is only 3 seconds,
Uh-huh.
all it needs to be.
Uh-huh.
And that terror, that buildup of terror for the first, probably a good solid 30 seconds to a minute
Uh-huh.
of, oh my God, what is happening?
Uh-huh.
And it's coming. Like,
Uh-huh.
I can't put a cork in this.
Uh-huh.
It's happening. Something's
Uh-huh.
going to break.
Uh-huh.
From that to the most euphoric thing you've ever felt in your entire life. So coming back, I'm like, I need to do that again. Where are you going next, Mr. Dispenza? And ended up going to a 3 day there in Philly. And that's where the crying started. 3 days straight, nothing but crying. And then 2 weeks later, Mexico. I go 4 days, nothing but crying. And I think it was the first meditation in that place. It was, I go out of my body just like I did, but I'm out and I'm floating through space with these little balls of light. And I see this one that just keeps like coming down towards me closer and closer, just, wisping back and forth. And I'm just captivated by it, and it's like stars or something out there, but this one. And I keep my eye on it and it comes right in front of me, like right here. And then bam, it's my grandmother's face. Now, why that's significant is, my whole life, I want to say, yeah, pretty much my whole life, I had this thing of, it's all inside you. Like all this vision that you see, the walls, the desk, the computer, the microphone, it's all just a construct that you make up in your mind. And that I say this is a microphone makes it a microphone in my mind. Somebody else may not see it, but I see it and it's my world. Your color blue. How do we know is my color blue? How do we know? When you say it's blue, maybe it's my red, but when you say blue, red pops up for me, right? You're red. But I could not ever understand the people. Like, how do these people work then? Am I making them up? I mean, they're moving. They're alive, And as soon as I saw my grandmother's face, I got it. That was the moment. Like, we're energy. That's it. We're little balls of light. And you only carry maybe 6 or 8 little balls of light with you through your lifetime. And the people that are most important to you keep taking over that ball of light. And when your grandmother dies, another ball of light, that ball of light becomes somebody else that comes into your life that may be like your grandmother. Maybe gives you the feeling that you had when you were with your grandmother, and when your grandfather dies, and then when your father dies. And people keep coming in to fill that spot because your grandmother isn't love. The ball of light is love. So then when you, for instance, come into my ball of light, you're automatically love. Now there's others too, right? So that's when I got it. And it it was so emotional in that moment. And then I come out like, the meditation's over and I'm at the front. And, I remember saying to the guy next to me, I'm like, I think I was just in heaven.
Huh.
I don't know how else to describe it. I saw my grandmother and she was this ball of light and going on. And it was so real, and even Joe's looking down at me like, bro, what was that shit? Right. That was pretty, cause I'm bawling. My shirt is soaked, literally soaked. Next meditation, she's taking me and she's leading me up this, there's balls of light on either side of me. And as I would pass them, I would hear voices, laughter, and it would be my buddies,
Huh.
my wife, my ex-wife's now, niece who died. And I saw her face. That's what I remember, her smile. I remember seeing her. I seeing my buddy and him yelling and laughing. And it was like, the things that were the most recognizable of them showed up. It was like, wow, this is insane what is happening right now. And then here we go again. Then there's this figure and tall man, white shirt, my hero. I get to him and he grabs my hand. And as soon as I grab his hand, we're sitting in his living room. I can feel the chair that I used to sit in when I was a little boy. It was this rough, not the most comfortable chair. It had like this rough fabric on it. Like it was just it felt like sandpaper, right? And I'm in it with him, but I'm not a little boy. I think then I might have been sitting in that chair. I might have been. And then next, we're standing at this bridge in the city where down the street from his house where we would watch all the trains. And he would tell me where they were going. Like that one's probably going out west because they're delivering cattle. And it's probably going back to get more because it was at a slaughter factory and it smelled like one. So he would have to hold me up and he was old and he couldn't hold me up very long, And I remember saying to him, but look at me, you don't have to hold me. I'm a grown man now. The next second, we're in that cosmos, that universal swirl, the cosmos swirl with all the colors and all of that. And he said, this is who you are. This is who we all are. And then bam, out into that meditation. And then the next one, I go right back in. Grandmother shows up, takes my hand. Grandfather shows up, takes my hand. We do our walk. And there is a body in front of me, a person in front of me, back to me. And they're walking me to this person, like in the sky, in the darkness. And just as I get to it, he turns around and it's him. I swear she put something in my water. She So whoever, just side, you may edit this out, but whoever's planning on coming on this, I think she does put something in the water here in the studio being my bedroom. Anyway, back to the story. This figure turns around and it's him. And he walks into me. It's not like, he's there talking to me. He's inside me now. He's violated me. And he said, it's never been me. It's been you. You're the one. You're the one who has to forgive. And that was it. Meditation ends and it's gone. So I'm come out of this. Now you can imagine this person who has been off of a phone for 4 days calling the person that he's shared his life with for 30 years and explaining this, not being able to get a word out because I was so emotional. I could not speak. I really had trouble speaking through the whole thing. And mind you, I'm writing this all down during this whole workshop, which ended up being the book. And I can hear this person on the other end who in some way doesn't believe me or can't believe me. I don't know what it is, right? And I think that's where the road split. And then I thought, well, surely if she felt this, surely if she went, she would feel it and she would understand. So I made her go to another one. And I thought, well, surely she must feel it. And she didn't. And then we went with friends and the friends were going to the next one. They were going to bring their son. And that was Indian Wells, California. And I said, we were at the airport and I said, they're signing up for the next one. And she said, oh, I'm done. I did what you asked. I'm not going to go. I'm done with that. In a nice way, but road splits even further. And then she said, well, maybe you should go, because it'd be good for you maybe to go with him, our son, because he struggled with addiction. And, it was, well, I don't know. I'll think about it. And then I thought, well, I'll sign up to be a volunteer. If they pick me, then I'll go. And then I guess 2 weeks before the thing, I got picked to go to a volunteer and I said, okay, I guess I'm going. So I went and then that's when everything changed. Everything changed. I mean, it changed before that because, the people that were my people, that were my family, my friends, we sat down for 4th of July, actually at Brad's house. And suddenly I felt like I was in an intervention. And it's like, well, you're in a cult. And I'm like, me? Are you fucking talking to me? I'm in a cult? And they're like, well, this is, you got to stop this and whatever. And I'm just like, I got to get out of here. I said, I can't believe it. I finally get freedom. And you want me to come back in that fucking cage with you? Ain't no way, man. Sorry, sister. I'm not coming. And it get worse and worse, And, I came home from Indian Wells and just watching people heal does something to you, let alone being healed. But watching people come up against themselves and, he talks about that a lot, but them actually coming up against themselves and to see the transformation in somebody that can't stand is standing. Like, you can't deny that. Like, it happened. I watched it. I saw it. But then to come home and to be questioned and argued with. And the moment came when I had come home and I had a lot of insights and I got a lot and a lot of it made sense. And I sat down with her and I shared the whole thing, everything that I've been holding for 30 years. And after 45 minutes or a half an hour, which seemed like a lifetime, she just said, I don't know what any of that means. I don't know who you are. And then, we got in an argument a little later and she is just coming at me hard. This needs to stop. And who are you? What are you doing? And all this. And I just said, this voice in my head just said, you gotta go. You gotta go. It's now. It's now. Now's your chance. Now's your time. You have got to go. 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 It was just so overwhelming. And finally, I got to go. And that was the moment. And I think a lot of people, when they go through this process, they have that moment and they go through that door and you are leaving yourself behind.
Yeah.
And I knew I was. I was
Yeah.
leaving myself in that house, and it was very hard because I built that house and my family was in that house. My kids were in that house. The person that I shared my life with in that house. And it was very difficult, you know. Um, and I knew I was going to cause her so much pain, but I really didn't have a choice. It's so hard. And I think a lot of people will agree with me that have gone through this process. It's bigger than you.
Mm,
It's not you that's doing
mm,
it. It's
mm,
something else that's shoving you out the door,
mm. And I
And
think it's really hard. It's really what I've discovered, obviously in our own journeys, but helping other people through this process is until you have had, like you said, that similar experience, it's impossible to try to explain that to somebody else. And so it's understandably so easy
Mhm.
to come up with all sorts of things as to why, somebody leaves. And like you said, this is very common in people that make very big transformations or changes in their life. It's really common for the marriage to end, because when you start to grow and become someone else, the person that's like that you're married to, they're like, I
Who are
didn't sign
you?
up for that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
who
I
are
didn't
you
sign
now?
up for this version of
Yeah,
you. Like, I signed up for a different version of you. And so they struggle to even conceive or perceive because they didn't change.
yeah.
And, it's unfortunate because you can't explain. You can try to explain to someone, "Oh yeah, God just moved through me." And they're going to
Mhm,
look at you like you have five heads,
mhm,
because how do you explain that to somebody that's never
mhm,
experienced that? And so I think that, like you said, as difficult as it is, the common theme in many, many, many people I've talked to, you've talked to, we've talked to together, is like, it's a knowing deep inside that, like you said, you can't. It's just a knowing deep inside. It doesn't make logical sense to
mhm.
anybody else. It makes no logical sense. And yet it is something inside of you that you just know that you have to listen to.
Yeah. Well, but you don't have a choice, you know. It makes you listen, you know what I mean? You can't ignore it because it feels too good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the freedom from the voice inside your head. It's freedom from
That's
judgment.
right. That's right.
And when you get to that point, it's very lonely, but it's not because you feel everything is outside of you now. Like the world is just outside of you. Like there's this inner something inside you, but you're separate from all the nonsense and bullshit, you know? Um, I know now, and there's that too, where you have the people, the spiritual entitled, where, well, I know now, and poor you, peasant, you don't understand. It's hard to explain to people what euphoria feels like and when you felt it. And it's why I didn't even try to. I didn't try to. It's like, how do you explain that? Your version of God came down and touched me. I don't know
Yeah.
what else to tell you. I mean, why me? I don't know. Maybe because I went through so much pain.
Yeah.
Maybe, and there's two stone teenagers. Maybe they just
Mm,
patted me on the back and they said,
mm,
"Bro, that was impressive, man. That was really impressive.
mm.
Good for you. Good for
Yeah.
you."
So
Um,
fast forward, 4
mhm,
years, you can obviously, you never went back and,
mhm.
went through the next couple
The
years
dissection,
of dissection, and then
the cocoon.
the cocoon. Yeah. So then, if you want to share, obviously, a little bit, maybe, well, I don't think you need to go into details, but due to, the divorce and everything that happened. And I think, you would agree that after 30 years of the stress of the company, you are kind of at a place too that you didn't know if you could continue on with it.
Well, I didn't necessarily feel, I'm a different person now overnight.
Yeah.
You really do. It really happens.
Yeah.
And it didn't I didn't know what I wanted at that point, but I knew I didn't want the pain anymore. I knew I didn't want the stress anymore. I knew I didn't want the struggle anymore. I needed a break, man. I had a lot of guys and a big payroll and, a lot of clients and a lot of jobs, and I was extremely proud of it. But, you know, I'm kind of sitting in a home office, making this all happen. And the weight again, it was like every day somebody came in with another 10 pounds. And pretty soon that backpack is pretty heavy. And, I just couldn't, I just couldn't look at a screen of blueprints anymore. It was just so painful. And which was hard because it was my life. It was my, I was so proud of it. And I was so proud of the relationships with, my guys. And I didn't even get to work with them. Like I would be on jobs and go to see what they were doing, but I didn't get to physically work with them. But they were my brothers. I could identify with them because they were going through struggles too, and it's kind of like brothers in arms, whether you're in military, or if you're a firefighter, a policeman, or, you're a tradesman, you share the same life in a way. So a lot happens. And that part was hard to give up, very hard to give
Well,
up.
but yeah, I mean, so let's frame a reference. So you make the decision, you have to sell the company through the divorce and through
divorce,
everything.
of course, I was looking at the team of lawyers come after me were all the devil. They were Satan incarnate, and they were here to make my life miserable, and she was too. And they were going to take this thing away from me that I had worked 40 years to build, my soul, and all the money that came with it. And I looked at all of that as, how fucking dare you? It all pointed to basically I didn't have a choice but to sell the company. But later in this 4-year battle, I started looking at it differently. I started to look at it as, well, maybe they're not Satan. Maybe they're just trying to say, hey, this isn't you anymore. Maybe they're saying, you got to let this final piece go because we're trying to remove this backpack because we have a new one. And this new one, you don't have to carry. But I couldn't see it at the time. And it seemed that everything I owned was slowly being pulled away. The final one was my boat. Now, there's a saying, the 2 best days on a boat are the day you buy it and the day you sell it. That was not my case. A lot of very magical and beautiful moments on my boat with my friends, with the person that I share my life with now that happens to be on the screen with me. And as we jokingly refer to her as Mother, the sea, because that's where he was. I guess I felt him, a connection, where I could talk to him. And this was the vessel that got me there to those places to be free. I felt free when I was in the ocean. I made peace with it. I'm that guy who's cursing at the waves. Oh, I'm going to conquer you. And it just flattened out and let me in. And it was beautiful. And I loved it. I loved being on that boat. And then there was a thing where something happened. And of course, I had to sell it to pay her off. And I knew that was like the last straw. And then, so everything's gone. My house that I built with my own hands is gone. My children in it. My dog. My parents at this point had passed, and all my family, because when I left them all for her because I felt selfish for leaving, and I'm not coming back and, not have communication with anyone. It was easy to do it that way, but I swear to you, it was because I knew I was going to hurt her bad. And I knew she needed them more than I did. And if she needed to hear, well, he wasn't worth it, or you're better than that, or I'm here for you, whatever you need, don't worry. I'm not going to try to convince that person that you need to lean on to come and listen to me and why I left. So I left. And all of that stripping was Scott slowly dying. I remember having him in one of the meditations at Dr. Joe. I was sitting at the end of the bed in my mom's hospital room when she was in the nursing home. And there were all these dead people standing around the bed with me. My stepfather, all these beautiful people. And there was this light above her as she laid there, and the light was bright, but her body was dim. And it was like this thing said to me, see, that's how it goes. You think there's life and death. There's not. There's levels. And your mom has been transmitting back into her body, which is not flesh. It's light. And that light that you see above her is her almost full. And that body that lays underneath that light is her at her final end. But it's not end of soul. It's not end of body. It's end of flesh. And it was, again, a very beautiful thing of truth. I take that as truth. I know that now, and, this was all the stripping of me, all of it, the house, the business. Then, I would get pictures of, Aiden, who works for the company now, my son, sending me pictures of the Christmas party. And I'm not in the picture because I'm not there. And I remember saying to him in the text, he sent me this picture, and I said, that's really hard to see. So he sent 7 more. And I'm like, no, it's not like I can't see it. I can see it. It's just really, I got it. And I said, you don't understand what I've had to give up. And he said, none of us wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you and what you built. That helped, but it also hurt, So I think anybody, again, that's gone through this knows it is a stripping, and the stripping is painful.
I think that's, that's sort of the story I wanted to end with, is me watching you go through what was a stripping, right? It started with, you had left your marriage. Then it started with, you had lost pretty much everyone in your life, at least communication with them. And then it was, it was like slowly. And then it was the company. You ended up selling the company to your neighbor, that, young kid that you'd trained, sold the company to him so that your son kept working there. And then it was, a lot of your belongings. And then the last I remember thing was the boat. That was and I remember thinking, like, this is the symbology of who Scott Sunderland was. And I remember your attachment to all of these things. I mean, you had your ego, Scott, was attached to all of these things. And so when I saw you get rid of the boat, I proceeded to watch you probably for about the next 2 years go through, they call it a dark night of the soul, one night.
Well, it's only a night.
It's only a night, but I watched you go through it
600
for 2 years, really.
Yeah.
A death of your ego is what I watched. And I watched you go through that really dark process for about 2 years. And, I would love for you just to sort of share some of those moments in that darkness of, I'm losing all of it. I'm losing everything I am. And then what sort of started to bring you into the light, I guess you could say.
Well, I know, I think your next guest, my beloved brother Stanton, I think he'll echo these words. It was fucking hell. It really was. Because, man, you're in the cocoon and you're being stripped. And you don't know you're going to be a butterfly. There's no manual in there that says, oh, just go with it. It's okay. This is what's meant to happen. This is the shedding. Valhalla is waiting for you. There's none of that. This is the end. There's nothing left for me here. The only thing that I really have to live for is my relationship with the person that I have chose to love. And thank God for her, whoever that person is. But it is, you don't know who you are anymore. And then there's moments of euphoria, days of euphoria of, oh my God, I'm free. Oh my God, it's so light. And then it's a roller coaster. It is, I swear to you, it's a literal roller coaster. When you go up the hill and you feel that weightlessness and it's the thrill and and then when you're down and your body is so tight and you can't move and you can't get out of bed. Many days I couldn't get out of bed. And again, it's very symbolic of being in the bed, of being paralyzed again. And it's the transformation again. I'm going through this again. The caterpillar somehow finds his way back to being a caterpillar after becoming a butterfly, or the butterfly just forgets for a minute and says, I think I'm going to get in that cocoon. That looks a little cozy.
Right.
And then you go through the dissection and the juice of the body squeezing out. And it really did feel like that. And I think the thing that really brought me out, you say, oh, well, I meditated for 12 hours a day. No, I didn't. I just found my way through the dark somehow into days of light, and then ended up in the tunnel in darkness, waiting for a train to run me down. And then getting out of the tunnel into the light. It was that all the time. And then I think the thing that really changed it was when you had one of your bright ideas. I heard of these ketamine retreats. I heard of these things. We need to do something. And I was looking at ayahuasca. I was going to do an ayahuasca thing.
Yeah, you
and
were.
that,
Yeah.
shitting myself and throwing up. I said, man, I've been through enough. My body's been through enough. I don't need to do that. And doing 5-MeO. Do I want to do that again? I don't know. Screaming at the top of my lungs for 10 minutes. I don't know if I need to do that again. So I was kind of good. I'm just going to ride the ride and find my way through the tunnels. And then, of course, this ketamine retreat comes up, and, we ended up talking to the people, the facilitators, and the doctor who's prescribing. And, oh, all right, I'm all on board. I've been there to that place that she's talking about. I've been there. I've been to that beauty, that euphoric, state. And I remember being in it. And this is it. This is truth. Because I've been here without this shit, and now I'm here with it. So this is truth. And I remember that. I know you know that. When I came out of that, I'm like, this is truth. This is who we are. This is where he went, by the way. This is where he's at. This is where my mom is. This is where my dad is. This is where your grandfather is. This is where your grandmother is, right?
Well, now you're going to make me cry.
Well, it's about time. But that really was the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the turning point of this is the end of the tunnel, but of the series of tunnels.
Yeah.
Yeah. And coming out of that and being free.
Yeah.
And when you do any kind of psychedelic, I always forget. Psychedelic, it's momentary, but this wasn't momentary.
Yeah.
This was very long lasting after that journey. It was very imprinted in me of freedom, and it released a lot. I think I released a lot before it, but I was clean enough to see the truth, and the dirty that I cleaned out, the ugliness that I cleaned out, right, was Scott and all his thinking, all his trials and tribulations and life events, and to get to this place. And again, you can only share the story with people, and you can only share, maybe it would work for you. But they actually have to take the shot and say, and I think that's the thing when I see people, I love facilitating these things. And when I mean facilitate, I do nothing. I just show up and I talk for a little bit, and I watch the people take their medicine and they lay back, and I watch the magic of their body letting go. She does it all. But it's a magical thing when you get to do that, when you get to watch somebody at first is tight and then lets go, and then their arms go out. It's like, there it is. It's like a horse, reaching its stride. It's stride, it's cruise. And that's what I love. And them coming out and say, oh my God, I never knew. Now we do.
Yeah, I watched. I'm not a living example. I'm a first-person example of watching the impact of ketamine therapy. Because if you would have gone traditional therapy during that period, they would have diagnosed you with depression or whatever else, and they would have prescribed you medication.
Yeah, and numb it.
And I watched in real time, because obviously as soon as we got home, you decided, I want to continue working with this medicine, and you did. And it was literally, like
night and day.
Like, he's back. He's coming back. And then, of course, we decide to make a big life change and to go on the road, get into our fifth wheel and our RV and travel and see where that takes us. And I watched you just, begin to light up again, driving. And I could see that you were like starting to embrace this version, because it's still a version of the ego, but this version that no longer had all the former identities that attached you to needing to be a certain way or needing to show up. And I watched you just get to be playful and fun and adventurous and happy. And after, like I said, 2 years of watching this person that I love that's so strong and has been through much, to watch him, it's so hard as a partner to watch the person you love go through such despair and not be able to help them, and to watch you light up, and then to sort of bring this round full circle now that we're 2 hours in is we decide to we run a course. There was a guy that took our course. He lives in Boise, Idaho. He's done construction before. I say, hey, you need to get on the phone with him and you guys need to have a conversation about potentially
This is her
starting
taking
something.
credit. This is her taking credit for my life now.
I had to put that in.
It's very sneaky.
It's very sneaky.
No, it's very true though. Because I was getting restless. And I say this, I really am the luckiest person in the world, because not just for my partner, that's one very, very huge part. But, at a very young age, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I was good at, and I knew I wanted to do it. And thank God. But in knowing what I wanted to do and being so fortunate to do that and to have that career, and as I said the other day, it's not the success. It's that I just didn't know how to do anything else. This is what I'm good at. And, I went through just some painful broke moments where I just didn't have any money. People owed me money. They weren't going to pay me, all the things. And I just didn't. And I should have quit. I mean, there was 100 times where I should have quit and just said, oh my God, Scott, will you just give this thing up? I mean, come on. But I just didn't know anything else. And I said, I'm just not the smartest, not the sharpest knife, or I'm tenacious, or I just really love what I did. And when I had to give that up, I realized that the thing that I loved about my job was what I first started doing was actually working on job sites and taking a concept on paper and putting it in a 3D material world. And that was my genius. That was my zone of genius, as Gay Hendricks would say. And I made a life out of it. And, very good life. Lost a lot of money, but made a lot of money. I think when you realize that you're not dead and you're too young to retire, because what is that anyway? We traveled all over this country, and it's a beautiful country, by the way. And if you haven't seen it, you need to, because it's not just the landscapes that are beautiful. It's the people that are in those landscapes, and the different cultures and the different lessons and the different beauty of what this place holds. So, all this shit that we're going through, there's a lot behind that curtain that you're not seeing. So I would encourage you to see it, because there's a lot of lessons in it. There was a lot of lessons for us in traveling around. But I knew I was missing what my calling was. I thought when we moved to Florida and I was going to have my boat in the backyard, I thought fish every day. And then it became fish once a week. And then it became, well, if we can get on the boat 2 weeks, 2 days of the month. And it's just like, why? It just didn't do it anymore. Driving from here, to this place, to that place. Let's go to Arches. Let's go to, Mountain Home, Arkansas. Let's go here. Let's go there. That wears out. And then the thing that always constantly called was, don't you miss it? And I don't know if it was relationships that I missed with guys that I call my brothers or whatever. I don't know if it's the work itself, the work with my hands that I missed. When we got to Boise, started a company, started a partnership, I realized, and I'm realizing, as we kind of alluded to earlier, maybe in the previous episode, because this thing's gone on for 3 hours. I don't know how she's cutting this one up. This might be part 10. I'm not sure. Or maybe we didn't get to part 10 yet. There's a Scott the dad, Scott the husband, Scott the friend, and Scott the boss, and Scott the carpenter. There's all those things. And that is for all of us. You just substitute your name for Scott. And I always have this romantic vision of my family, of my children. I have 5 now, and I could not be more proud of all of them. I mean, I just love them so much. And I have to say that because I really do. But I romanticize it. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could work with some of them? So, but, they got a version of Scott the Boss. The rhyme of that name would be Scott the Maniac, because Scott brings, these people hire me to build this, and with you or without you, I'm going to build it. So we either get in gear or we don't get in gear, and I'm not for not getting in gear. And, I think that's the same with the father, and son, player and coach type of dynamic. And, to a father and son working together type of dynamic, very, very difficult to do, because the father has two different roles and the son has two different roles. So, but now that I'm doing what I was born to do, as I said to my boss that I knew when he was a young child, because I worked for his father, when he came to visit me last week, I won't do this, but I would do this for free. I love this so much. I love, you need me here. And I love that. I love that you trust me to deliver what you promised to somebody. I love that. And you have my word that I will do it. And even if I have to carry this fucker on my back, I'll do it for you because you believe, that's how much I love this. And ultimately it's been a revival. Of
it's definitely for sure.
My career. Extremely grateful. And very proud of it too.
I mean, I've said to many people in the last, so obviously we came to Boise, you started this new company with a partner and you guys did a job. And, I've said to many people, I've seen him more happy. I mean, obviously when we first met, we were going to Dr. Joe Dispenza a lot. We were, high as kites, but this is like, I think for both of us, the journey we've been on, it's like, this is the most point in our lives where we're the most embodied version of peace more than anything, contentment, groundedness, wholeness, without chasing the high and without going, it's like I've watched you be embodied and happy, joyous, purposeful, I think more than anything, watching you come home every day and working long hours. But I know what that feeling is, because when you're doing something you love, you will put in the long hours. And to watch you in the last, like 3, 4, or 5 months and how happy you are after all these really messy moments. And that's why I wanted you to come on, and that's why I wanted you to be the first person, because I was like, this podcast. Well,
I am the first person. I'm number one.
That's right. But this podcast is all about sharing the messy moments, right? Like, because when we share the messy moments as a byproduct, the wisdom that you want to share with the world will come from that, because you made it through a lot of very, very messy moments in your life, a lot of very messy moments. And you're sitting here in front of me, the most, I don't even know the word, like I said, like embodied contentment.
Handsome is one.
That is definitely it. But purposeful, but not like a crazy person, in their 30s that needs to prove something. So they're being crazy in their business. It's not that. It's a grounded peace, I guess you could say, a grounded peace and purpose and passion and happiness and creativity and all those things. But the point is like, for anyone that listens to this at any point in time, if it's years from now and somebody listens to this and they are going through that caterpillar moment and they can't get out of bed, you are proof. You are proof. You are proof.
Yes, I have died on the cross for you, if you're listening.
What
sorry.
would you like to say to that person that's listening, that is in the midst of some very messy moments? Number one, I guess, what would you say is, through all of those things, what was one thing that maybe you had in common that got you through each of those moments? And what do you have to say to them now? Not even just to get them through, but what do you want them to hear?
I'm Seabiscuit. I'm the underdog. You can't help but love an underdog. Right. So if you would compare my life to a movie, it would be Seabiscuit, because I was all three of those. I was all three of the people, and I was the animal. We could very easily give up on this, right? But something inside keeps you going. Something is there that keeps you moving. It's not you. It's something more than that. And advice for anybody that, especially business owners, we hear it ad nauseum, but you got to love what you do because you're not going to stick. You're just not gonna. Because if you think this, I've had to have this conversation with somebody that, is such a nice, sweet person. This is not for everybody. Being an owner, being an entrepreneur, it can be very lonely. You are going to have to make decisions that are going to affect your family. You're going to have to choose things that you don't want to choose because it's the only way the business is going to survive, meaning vacations may need to be canceled. There's a lot of things that have to happen. So the cards have to be stacked in the right way just to start. I started when I was 19 years old. I lived in my parents' house. I had a truck payment of $160, I think. I didn't have much to lose, right? So I just kept building on that. But don't forget why you originally, this is the most important thing, because I forgot. Don't forget why you originally started it, because it is for the love of the game that you're playing. By the time I was done, I was playing a totally different game than the one I started playing. I wasn't the carpenter, the guy on the job that people were looking. I was the paper shuffler. I was the lawyer reading contracts. I was the estimator reading prints. I was a guy who stood in front of a computer and stared at screens and prayed every night that a check would show up that could pay the payroll for that week. That became my daily, weekly, yearly life instead of the creator, which I took material, that being steel, wood, or drywall, and making it, forming it, creating it to become something that when you walked into it, you felt special, whether that be a retail store, whether that be a beautiful restaurant, whether that be a box that you open up that you keep something in. That's what my genius is. That's my magic. And getting back to that, and it started just working with wood again in a wood shop that magically appeared in front of me. To be able to do that again and then to spend time and have a relationship with that piece of wood changed everything for me, because it brought me back to what I started doing that made me fall in love with what I do now. And that's why I would do it for free. But Ken, if you're listening, I won't. You still are going to have to pay me. And that's just how it is. And probably more, just saying.
Is that your one piece of advice for people listening right now?
Yes. Yeah. Do what you love to do, not for the money. Listen, it's going to come and go. And if you do it for the money of it, it just takes the joy out of it. It really does. And the money, how many times have you heard a 60 or a 70 or an 80-year-old person, don't do it for the money? I'm just telling you, please don't do it for the money. Do it because it's just stuff that's supposed to make you feel better. And it doesn't. It makes you feel worse, because when you get all the stuff, then you think, well, I still feel like shit, so I must be a failure in a big way. Robin Williams is the greatest example. He had everything and he killed himself. And it's you that's the problem. Yeah. It's also you that's the solution. I was the problem that got me in that bed. I was the solution that got me out of that bed. Yeah. I was the problem that got me on that beach. I was the solution that got me off that beach. It's you. Yeah. And you have to believe and trust in yourself, because no one else is going to do it, because they're trapped in themselves. So greatest advice is just, it's a game, and there's two stoned teenagers, and you've been visiting here for a couple hours. And I know you think it's a lifetime, but it's not. It's in and it's out. And of course, it's all just inside you, your little version.
Well, that is a great spot to finally say goodbye.
Can I get something to eat now? I'm hungry.
To this first episode. Thank you, honey, for being my first guest.
Honey Sunderland, signing off.
Honey Sunderland, thank you so much for sharing your insights, for sharing.
Well, I love you very much. I would do anything for you.
And thank you.
Even cry on national computer.
That's perfect.
National home computer.
Well, that wraps up our episode of The Messy Truth of Transformation. You've heard all the messiness, but not just the messiness, the really beautiful things on the other side, the breakthroughs, the brilliant moments where you come to moments of truth, really. So thank you for sharing those moments of truth. I know it will be very helpful for everybody that listens. And I love you. And now we're going to go eat. See you next time, everybody. Hey guys, thanks for listening to another episode. If this episode resonated in any way, I would love for you to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with somebody who's in the thick of it too. If you want more behind the scenes, or you want tools to support you along your journey of messiness, come hang out with me over on Instagram at mhollis_thesage. But most importantly, just remember, the mess is part of the magic.